Welcome into This is Baseball. My name is Brandon Johnson. Happy opening day 2025. Happy Thursday. Today is the first ever Thursday edition of This is Baseball. If you missed the announcement from a couple of weeks ago, I have changed the schedule for This is Baseball from every Wednesday, and I've opened it up a little bit to have shows every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you missed the show from Tuesday, I did an episode covering the American League and kind of what I think is going to go down in 2025 on that side of the league. And today is largely going to be focused on the National League and kind of what I see going on that side of the ball. So if you missed Tuesday's show, go back and check that out so you can be kind of caught up on where I stand on everything around the league after you get done with today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've been here a while, thank you for coming back. If this is your first time on the show, I hope you like what you hear and stick around. But let's just go ahead and dive into the 2025 National League. So let's just start with the 2024 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. So when I'm looking at the AL versus the NL, I think the AL is a lot more wide open than the NL. I think it is very obvious and clear that the Los Angeles Dodgers are the best team in the National League and probably all of baseball. I think they're going to continue to be dominant again this year and in the years to come. If you look at the moves that they made this offseason, they have no intention of slowing down. They're being very aggressive on the free agent market. Last year, they spent $1 billion on two players. I should say they invested $1 billion in two players. And, this year, a lot of the same. They signed Blake Snell to a 5-year deal. They signed Roki Sasaki to a deal. They brought back Teoscar Hernandez. They brought back Clayton Kershaw. Brought in Michael Conforto, Blake Treinen. Brought back Kike Hernandez. They are not shy to spend. And, sure, have they found a loophole in the deferred payments that they've been adding to these deals? Yes, but they are, they're playing within the rules. I think that's something that will get looked at down the road. But I will say this, as somebody, and this is probably something I'll get more into down the road, as somebody that is pro salary cap for Major League Baseball, and pro salary floor, more importantly, you see what the Dodgers are doing and you see what the Mets are doing as far as spending goes. And honestly, it's really hard to be mad at an ownership group that is willing to invest in their on-field product. And this is exactly what the Dodgers are doing. They're saying, we have the means to spend money in free agency. We have the means to get, the high-end free agents, and we're going to do that if we're able to. So here you are. You have kind of a super team in Los Angeles, which, how you feel about that is obviously you feel strongly for it or you're strongly against it in one way or the other. But the Dodgers have kind of built themselves up as the new evil empire of Major League Baseball. And I think the Dodgers are going to be winning a lot over the next 5-6 years. And I think by the end of this decade, we're going to be very tired of the Los Angeles Dodgers as baseball fans. But yeah, I think they're going to be very good this season. And I mentioned all of those players that they brought in free agency. And, they still have Shohei Ohtani, they have Freddie Freeman, they have Mookie Betts, they have Yoshinobu Yamamoto. So, very good team. But looking at the rest of the NL West, I still like this division. I think it's going to be a competitive division for second place. I think it's very obvious that the Dodgers are going to win. And, unless something crazy happens, barring injuries, or, the Giants decide that they're just going to randomly win 107 games or whatever it was in 2021 and overtake the Dodgers for that season. But I still like the Padres. I like, Jackson Merrill, from Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Xander Bogart, Luis Arraez. They still have a very strong lineup in San Diego. I like their pitching staff and Dylan Cease and Michael King, and hopefully a healthy Yu Darvish. I think the Padres are going to be very good. I think they're going to make the playoffs, or have a good shot at making the playoffs, and going to be a fun team to watch. Same thing, kind of looking at the D-backs. I think we kind of forget about the Diamondbacks in this division. We got to remember that, 2 years ago, they were the National League champions. They lost to the Rangers in the World Series. I like their pitching staff. They got Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen. I don't really know what's going to happen with Jordan Montgomery. He's going to at least start in the bullpen if he doesn't get traded. But, still Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte. They got Josh Naylor over there now, who was a good piece for the Guardians last year on a very good Guardians team. So, don't sleep on the Diamondbacks. I don't know if there's really going to be room for them as far as being in the playoffs, just because I think there's a lot of good teams, not only in their division, but I think if you look on the NL East, there's 3 just almost playoff locks, in my opinion. So they would have to kind of compete over there as well as in their own division. But looking at the Giants, who are kind of, another interesting team. They made a few interesting additions in the offseason, most notably Justin Verlander, who I think is one of the 3 best pitchers of his generation. Brought him over. But the thing is, he's 41 years old. So how much you're going to get out of him, I don't know. You're at least going to bring in, that veteran with a really competitive spirit and be a leader kind of in that clubhouse, and pair him with Logan Webb and Robbie Ray. But I'm not that excited about the Giants. I think they're a 75 win team at best. I think they're still a few years away from being really competitive. And then, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the Rockies, because I think the Rockies are terrible and have no vision as far as where they're going. I think they're easily a 100-loss team, and just going to be a long year in Colorado, which is unfortunate, because I've been to Colorado to catch multiple Rockies games. I love that stadium. I love that fan base. And I wish that they could be good, because it's, it's a really cool city and a cool fan base. So, hopefully they figure out how to win here at some point, but it's just tough because you have the Dodgers, you have the Padres and the Diamondbacks, and even the Giants that kind of have a vision, and the Rockies that don't. So moving on though from the NL West to the NL Central. I think the NL Central is interesting because it has, in my opinion, it has one team that I think is going to win. I think the Cubs are going to finally break through, win the division this year. And I feel like I count the Brewers out quite a bit. But I like the Cubs and kind of what they have done this offseason. So they made some trades. They brought in Kyle Tucker. We're going to trade with the Astros. Hopefully we see them extend him. They brought in Matthew Boyd. They made another trade and brought in Ryan Presley. Brought in Justin Turner, veteran guy who's done a lot of winning. They did trade Cody Bellinger away. They lost Kyle Hendricks. But I really like the Cubs. Pacoda Baseball Prospectus has them in 91 wins. I like that. I think that they don't even need to win that many games to win the Central because I think it is going down. I do think this is the year that the Brewers kind of take a step back. Though again, I keep saying that they trade away Josh Hader and we're like, okay, they're done. And then they trade Corbin Burns last season and still win the division. But I do think the Cubs have taken this step forward. I think the Brewers will still, be competitive. They do benefit from the Cardinals kind of going in the wrong direction, which I'll get to them in a second. And then the Pirates and the Reds that just, I think, are both fun up-and-coming teams. I feel like the Reds have been kind of up-and-coming team for 3 years now. But they have fun young players. Obviously, Ellie De La Cruz is, one of the most electric players in all of baseball. They traded for Brady Singer over there from the Royals as well. Obviously, the Pirates, Paul Skeens is going to be the opening day starter for the Pirates. That guy is a must-watch. If you're like, I don't really have a team, and, I like good pitching. I think if you're like, I can only watch 30 games this year, you should just watch Paul Skeens pitch because he's very good. And obviously contingent on health is going to be, at least at his trajectory, is going to be one of the best pitchers of his generation as well. But back over to the Cardinals. Cardinals are kind of in this weird spot. They're trying to, offload some of their older talent. They tried to move Nolan Arenado this offseason. They couldn't get it done. There was some stuff where, he wasn't he going to go to the Astros? That didn't end up happening. He's going to be on the opening day roster. There's also kind of this weird dynamic in the front office where John Mozeliak is leaving after this year. They brought in Chaim Bloom, who former Red Sox GM. They brought him in, and he's just kind of there, seemingly going to be the replacement for Mozeliak when it's all said and done. And I think you might as well just put Chaim Bloom in charge and be done with it and, get a year ahead, because I think you're kind of almost willingly just kind of taking a back seat this season, which, if you've paid attention to the Cardinals over the last 25 years, this, last season and, the projected standings for this season, this is not normal for St. Louis. They've been known as a perennial playoff contender. They've been to 4 World Series in the last 20 years. They've won 2 of them. They've been in many NLCSs over that time span, and have again just been, you can almost just lock it in, like the Cardinals are going to be good, and they've kind of hit some dark days. So it's very weird in St. Louis. Like, there's not really a whole lot to even be excited about. You look at the pitching staff, the rotation, Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis. You can get excited for Ryan Helsley in the bullpen, but then you go, is Ryan Helsley even going to be part of this team come July? He's a very good closer and probably going to be a highly coveted closer. But you have Wilson Contreras, who you signed as the catcher to replace Yadier Molina, who's now fully converted to a first baseman. Then you have, obviously, Nolan Arenado, who I mentioned, Nolan Gorman, Lars Nootbaar. Like, there's not a lot of names on this team that really get you excited about Cardinals baseball right now, which is just an unfortunate spot to be in. Because I've grown up enjoying Cardinals baseball, and just been accustomed to them being winners, and it's very weird that they're not only not winners, but they're kind of in this weird, like, they're almost in limbo of like, what's their next move? What are they doing next? But, in conclusion there, I like the Cubs, but I got to throw my respect to the Brewers, because I've been trying to say that the Brewers, aren't going to win the Central, and they either win the Central or they win a wild card. And they're there. I think the Brewers are obviously just a well-run organization and kind of a model small market team, if you will. But let's hop over to the NL East. I love the NL East. My favorite National League division, I think. One of the most fun divisions in baseball, because for really like the last 5-6 years, it's been a 3-team race. As far as I got to give a little love to the Nationals there. They won a wild card in 19, but they won the World Series in 19 as well. But more on them in a second. But Braves, Mets, Phillies, all 3 teams that are big spenders and just can draft and develop talent, and are all 3 kind of in this competitive window. You had the Braves, who've won a World Series in the last 5 years. Phillies went to the World Series a few years ago. The Mets went to the NLCS last season. And I think I look at it and I think the Braves will win this division, but I will at least look at these 3 teams and almost just lock them in for a postseason spot, especially, that makes that easier with the expanded postseason to 6 teams in each league now. But I like the Braves. I've always liked the Braves. If you've listened to the show, I kind of talk them up quite a bit. But Ronald Acuna Jr., healthy. Jurickson Profar, who they got in free agency, is going to be in their outfield. If you saw him, he kind of had a career resurgence in San Diego last year. Matt Olson, Austin Riley in your corner spots. Then Ozzie Albies. And Chris Sale, who was fantastic last year, Cy Young winner, Spencer Strider. They did lose Max Fried to the Yankees. But, man, if you're a Braves fan, you are going to be excited about this team and should be in the race come October. Let's move on to the Mets. I think Mets kind of made the biggest splash this offseason. It was them signing Juan Soto to a $765 million 15-year deal. 765 is a record. Shohei Ohtani signed for $700 last year. Juan Soto obviously beat that. And it was huge for the Mets. I honestly thought Soto was going to end up back with the Yankees, but he is part of a very good Mets team that, like I said, went to the NLCS last year. Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor. They brought back Pete Alonso as well. Sean Manaea they brought back as well. Cody Senga. And then Frankie Montas Jr. And then obviously they have Edwin Diaz still in the bullpen, who's super fun to watch. But yeah, I like the Mets a lot. Going to be interesting. Let's take a look at the Phillies real quick. Brought over Max Kepler, Brandon Marsh still in the outfield, Nick Castellanos. Still weird seeing Bryce Harper as the first baseman, even though this is, I think, year 3 technically. Bryson Stott, Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto. That is like, they've got names all over the diamond. And then you look at their pitching staff, and Zach Wheeler at the top, Aaron Nola, Matt Strahm in the back end of the bullpen. They again, I guess if you're just like, I don't know, I just love baseball, who should I pay attention to? What division should I pay attention to? I think the AL Central, like I mentioned in the previous episode, is super fun to watch. But I think the NL East is, like, if you just want to see quality baseball from, 3 out of the 5 teams over there, then pay attention to that, because it's just Braves, Mets, Phillies, especially watching, them go head to head. I think those are going to be super important games. And I think, we're going to get down to the wire, and these teams are going to be within 5-6 games of each other, at mid-September. So super looking forward to that. I think all 3 quality teams, postseason locks almost. Just closing out the NL East, you have Washington and Miami, who are going to be on the bottom. Both are going to be rough teams. Washington's in the middle of a rebuild. Miami is just, I don't know what Miami is doing. Miami frustrates me. They've been good twice in their 30-year existence. 2-time World Series champions. Just bad the rest of the time. Miami's too big of a market to be bad as much as they are. And I think Miami's a great baseball city, so I would love to see Miami, kind of get up there with Atlanta, New York, and Philly and be competitive as well. So, yeah, that's kind of my look at the National League. Again, I think, and I know this isn't a unique take, but the Dodgers are just going to be good for a long time. It's the only thing that you can count on if you're anti-Dodgers is them kind of hitting that October fatigue that they have kind of been accustomed to, that they did in the 2010s, where they were deep postseason teams a lot of years, and then just flamed out. I do think, as good as those teams were, I think the team that they roster now is significantly better than any of those teams. So I expect just a lot of winning from the Dodgers. But I think that we are set for a really, really fun 2025 season. I've said it before. I think the rules that they've put into place with, the impact pace of play as far as the pitch clock and the disengagement rule and the mound visits and adding PitchCom to eliminate sign stealing scandals or opportunities for sign stealing scandals. And then just the playoff expansion where more teams are going to be in it later down the season. And the balanced schedule where you get to see more teams and more stars. I think Major League Baseball is in a really good spot, and they're set up for a really good season. So that is all that I have today on This Is Baseball. Again, thank you so much for listening today. You can follow This Is Baseball on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at ThisIsBaseball_. You can follow me, Brandon Johnson, at Brandjaw on all platforms. If you enjoyed what you heard today, give the show a review or a rating. That helps me out a ton. But yeah, next time we talk, we will be discussing regular season baseball, games that count. So I will see you on Tuesday to discuss opening weekend. See you then.